Hello, Miss Denise. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you? Doing
Good.
good.
Same first name as my little sister.
Aw.
May she rest in peace, but she's doing great. And I want to say hi, my boy Erik. I love you so much.
Eric says hi, Mom. Um he just seems real bubbly, like as if it's like almost like this is a vacation for him. The way the excitement he feels, and he's just
Oh,
hi, Mom, and he says Mama. He doesn't say
he
Mommy.
says mama. That.
Right?
Yes.
He corrected me when I
Sometimes he
said
says
Mom.
mom, but mostly mama. I mean, my name in the family is Mama.
Well, he says Mama because he says it's also an endearment way of saying your name, the
Yeah.
way he says mama. So, yes, he says, he corrected me.
Erik, I remember it took you a long time before you actually knew my real name. I don't know if it's 11 years old or something. It's crazy, but who cares? It's just a name. Anyway, guys, I just got a subscription to Gaia.com, $8.95 a month, and it is so incredible. And I've been led there, I think, so I can generate topics that are just amazing, like ancient civilizations. That whole series is great, and the cosmic disclosure about aliens and the secret space program. This is, oh my god, it's amazing. Anyway, I was watching. I watched an ancient civilization, the episode on pyramids, but I forgot to write down questions. Whatever. I'm going to ask about that anyway. But then I also actually did write down questions when I was watching The Secrets of the Sphinx, and I found it very, very interesting. So I don't have that many questions, but let's proceed. Are you okay with that, guys?
Absolutely. And Eric says that you were guided to go in that direction because he says now he says, we all have our own. It's like going to college. He says, you start out doing the basics, then you work your way up to the core. And he says, and this is like now you've worked your way up, and he says now you're wanting to get more into the depths of even more truths of what's
Yeah.
there because there's different layers of truths is what
Oh
he
my
said.
God, there are so many hidden truths, guys. Things that we have no idea about: mind control, chemtrails, the deep state. It's crazy. Anyway, um, my first question: the marks on the feet and the sides of the Sphinx, it looks like fluvial erosion. In other words, water erosion. It's almost like maybe the Mediterranean, whatever, Mediterranean Sea, I think, lapped up on its paws. And this increase in water couldn't have happened, except at the end of the last ice age. So was it made during the ice age, the Sphinx, before or after?
Eric says definitely before. He said it was definitely before.
Well, I think it was a long time ago. We'll get to that, and it was in a climate regime that it was made when it must have been temperate, right? Lots of rain, lush vegetation, not desert. Okay. So why did it change to become the Sahara Desert from this, lush, temperate, beautiful green landscape? What happened?
Eric says it was all of what you said, the lush, and everything was balanced is what he's saying. He said over time, and he says, and this is like years and years and years, over time, um, the imbalance of the energy, he's saying, and just also too, he's showing me that it also changed to the degree that it is so that he's showing me that whoever put that there kind of arranged it in a way for the changing of the temperatures, the weather and the climate and all of these.
How?
Um, he's he's showing me like it's like they're rearranging things on how, and they did it because he said, it's almost like, so what they build and what they created, he's correcting me, he says what they created would stay there, because over time, he says those masterpieces, as he said, wouldn't have stayed with regular climate how it was before, and that because of erosion and stuff.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. So they wanted to keep it around.
Yes, definitely. And the reason why they wanted to keep it around, and Erik says, and some of it is to let people know that as civilization was evolving, that there is something more than them and than us, what we are. And Erik says also too, we're coming into a awareness of them, of how they're being created, how they are not being created,
What's
how
them? Who's them?
the people, that the entities, the energies,
Oh, okay.
the
Yeah.
ETs, how
ETs, yeah.
they knew one day that we would find them and start questioning them, and start coming in contact more with them,
Mm.
with the ETs. And Erik says, we call them ETs, but they're just another being, just like
Yeah,
us.
we're ETs too. We're aliens.
We are, and so Erik is showing me that, he says this is part of it, and more people are learning about this, because he says for a longest time nobody really questioned how the pyramids were there,
Yeah.
how they were built. No, they just like, okay, they're there, and it's a mystery. We never gave it thought on, well, how did that happen when we can't
Yeah.
create it now with what we know now? And so Erik says all of it, we're evolving more.
Better late than never.
Spiritually, he says we're evolving more spiritually, which has us evolving more intellectually as to how these pyramids and how the Sphinx and everything else is there. And there's no way we can deny that it's there, because we see it there. You
Yeah.
can't, and there's a purpose behind it.
Well, did it change to a desert because of a shift of continents, like the Pangea, whatever, moving around, or could it have been the precessional where, the axis like wobbles, over time? Could it, or tilts or whatever? Could it be partly that?
Erik says it's both, because he's telling me these beings are very intelligent,
Oh yeah.
and they knew ahead of time um, that it was going to be questioned. And so when you said how things evolve, they just knew all of this stuff was going to come into play, and to where it was going to be desert form, because nobody really lives out there, like there's not high rises and stuff like that. And
So they're not a bunch of people to destroy, a bunch of water
yeah,
erosion to destroy.
because
That's pretty cool. So the ETs wanted to preserve this
yes, Erik
monument.
says, yeah, and it's for a reason. It wasn't just to preserve it because they were so fond of what they
No,
created.
we're going to get to that.
Yeah.
But did are the ETs so powerful that they can actually move continents and change the precessional or motion of the axis, or tilt the axis to make this change in climate regime? Or did it just happen and good for that?
Erik says it's not like they went in there and said, okay, we're going to change this. He's saying it's almost like they could foresee things happening ahead of time. So
Oh,
they knew, because it's almost like they had a book of wisdom of what was going to happen or what could happen.
yeah.
And because not everything, how everything played out was gonna have, it's like we changed the course of things. So because of how they just, he's showing me how they had I'm trying to explain, it's because they had this book of knowledge of to could foresee things. Then um Erik says they just knew these were the places to build, and these
Oh, I see. That makes total
the
sense.
shifting of time. And he
Yeah.
says because they knew how things were going to start moving.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I was wondering when the Sphinx was actually built. Some say 10.5 to 12.5 years ago. Uh, but, you know, Leo actually supposedly was originally a lion, but we'll get to that later. Was it during the age of Leo, which is like, you know, around 12.5 thousand years ago?
Erik says, he says yes. He says yes. He says, really, he says, we don't even have the equipment to validate the age of the
Well, we got
material.
Jill.
But he's saying, but you know, and people in general, they don't, that's why it's such a mystery of everything. But um, he says, yes, you could say it was built around then, you know, and a little older, he says, you know, and he says it's
Interesting.
hard. He
Well,
says it's
maybe it was
hard for
started
us.
at a certain time and then ended up 12.5, 12,500 years ago, because basically there's a question as to whether it really was originally a lion pointing due east to its celestial counterpoint part, the Leo constellation, when it locks in perfectly at dawn at the vernal equinox, the spring equinox.
Wow. So so as you're asking Erik, and I'm listening to him, and he's saying, he's going, weren't they clever on how they designed it?
Oh yeah.
Because they didn't just say, okay, we're going to build here and let's just do it. Like we say, okay, here's a plot of land, let's build these houses. He says, um, he said, yes, there was direction in how they were um, building it. He said, of course, they didn't build it in a month like, you know, we build houses or buildings, but um, uh, and he's showing me how some of the stuff, even some of the stuff, I feel like more of what's in the inside, and I don't even know, can you go in these things? But he's showing me more
I'm
of
going
it
to talk about that later.
because I don't feel like some of that stuff is even from here. Like they brought it or somehow created it. I just don't feel like it's
The
a
stuff inside?
uh-huh. I don't even feel like some of the stuff that's in it. I don't feel like all the materials are from this planet.
Actually built it? ETs, or did they get humans to, you know,
Erik says
slaves or?
no. Erik says definitely ETs were the one building it because he said there were some humans, but definitely ETs were orchestrating it all and designing it and creating it because he said it is very strategically placed on how it
I
is
mean, it's so
because
accurate
it
the way it points to the Leo constellation.
well, and he says, you know, there's that also drives how um, things are moving and you know how things respond and just how we interact and stuff like that. There's a direct mathematical formula as to how everything is put, he's saying. And I feel like there are other ones built that are pointed in different directions as well, and the lining of the stars and
Yeah. Yeah.
is what he's showing me. He says definitely, you know, there's there's a reason why it's built that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing to understand that mathematics is actually the universal language of ETs, and there's a lot of math in
Yes.
the, encoded in the pyramids, the Sphinx, etc. Now, I also understand that there was a time, maybe at this time when the Sphinx was built, that ETs and humans were just like, hey, how you doing? They were just there. There was ETs were everywhere, and there was no problem with that. They coexisted. So is that true?
Erik says yes, and he says, and the reason why there wasn't a problem with it, and Erik is just loving it that you're involved in this, reading and hearing and seeing all of this, and he's just excited that people are also researching this and figuring this stuff out, because we weren't supposed to be at odds with each other like we are.
You mean
And
with the ETs and humans?
well, the ET and human, just us as a as a race here, how
Oh,
we're
I
at
know.
odds with
Yeah.
each other. And he said
Yeah.
this, in the way that they were going, there wasn't the fear put in there, you know, and that
Yeah.
was before there was a fear of control. And Erik says they didn't think about lack. Um, they didn't think about scarcity. They just knew that it was all good. They just knew that they would have whatever. But he says, but then they didn't sit there and worry about somebody having a bigger rock than the next person.
Oh God.
They
You know,
just, yeah, they just didn't worry about it.
Emery Smith, this guy who worked on the secret space program, and he said the crafts that they have under wraps, some of them are actually living, okay, and conscious. It's so weird. I mean, the stuff it's amazing. But he was asked if the cabal went down, the deep state, the military-industrial complex, the nefarious military who's into mind control and killing ETs and autopsying them stuff. If we were to open that up and destroy it, then we would have a utopia. Everybody would have everything they needed: homes, etc., safety, no more wars, and so forth. Is that true? Because I'm
Erik
liking
said,
that.
I know when you're talking about it, I was like, oh my God, that just sounds amazing.
I mean, because then we have ET technology to cure all diseases. I mean, come on.
Erik says we're shifting towards that, and he's telling me that he said, "Yes, that is true, Mom. It is true." Now, are we all going to walk around and be like,
Kumbaya. Yeah.
yeah? He said, "No, we'll still have our own working. You know, we will still have stuff to work within and stuff." But he says, "But there will be uh, a lot more calmness, and we won't be so." The violence will be down, you know, there's because the stuff that half the stuff that's even 3/4 of the stuff that's going on is a derivative of some people creating it.
Yeah. And the media, I think, is the mouthpiece for all this. Or am I wrong?
Erik says, no, you're not, Mom. He says they are the mouthpiece for that. He says, however, you know, a lot of the media, the news and stuff like that, they really believe what they're being told to say.
I
They
know.
believe that. They don't question.
Don't be brainwashed, people. Listen to your heart. Find out what
Absolutely.
really rings true. And that might be hard, but anyway. So how long did it take for the Sphinx to be built, with the ETs and humans working together on that?
Erik is showing me 100, so I'm taking that as 100 years.
100 years? ETs are powerful. Come on. Are you
Erik
sure
says
it didn't take more than that?
Erik told me 100 years.
Okay,
He
that's fine.
says he says
Okay.
100. He says yes. Now, where he's showing me, I he just says 100 years is what he shows me.
Okay, that's fine. Who cares? Okay, so then apparently 2,500 years BC, it was a lion's face apparently that was then recarved into the pharaoh's face, that is currently displayed. Is that true? That it used to be a lion, like pointing to Leo, the Leo constellation, and then some ego, whatever, bent pharaoh decided, I want my face there. Is that true?
Erik says, yes, that is true, because when you were asking that, Erik says that somebody came in and defaced it, is what he said.
God, oh, Jesus.
So
Okay.
Erik says, you see, Mom, why they built it where they built it? Can you imagine if they built it in a heavily populated area, what we would have
Oh
done?
my God.
So,
Graffiti.
yes,
Yeah.
and what they've done back then, what they did back then, he says it just would have been a million times fold what we
Yeah.
would have had. And when you say graffiti, yes, and he's showing me people wanting to take pieces of it, people want to prove something wrong. They
Yeah.
want to prove that it wasn't built like this, it wasn't this old, and they want to prove that. And just like with it being a lion's head, somebody's like, nope, we can't have that.
Yeah, because that's the power. Like, they're wrong, I'm right. That's that thing.
But
That's all.
Erik says, but the joke's on them because it didn't change the energy of what it was.
Oh. Or so the pyramids actually point due south in the exact location of the Orion constellation. Is that true, and why?
I
Y'all
find that.
hit the like button right now if you're liking this stuff, and hit the notification bell if you want to see all the cool stuff that's in queue. Okay, go ahead.
I think that's fascinating what you're asking.
No, it's
So
fun.
Erik says yes. He said yes. And he said, like said earlier, was there are others placed that are in alignment with it, and he says, and where the pyramids are and where they're facing, also, because it kind of like helps to balance things out. And also Erik says on somehow or another they're able to, I don't know if it's how the sunlight shines on them, or I would think that it is the sunlight, or maybe I don't know, something that shines on them. I'm asking Erik, and he's showing me like the stars, and Erik is showing me the stars, how they shine on them and everything, would give them an insight as to what's going to happen next. Like
Oh, huh.
it's almost like I don't know, like fortune telling type stuff. Like, you line up with this, they would know what to expect. They would know how to do things, how to change things up. It all had to, how the, Erik says the ebb and flow, how things would, Erik has shown me how the something magnetic, how it just changes the shifts of your body. So you would know how to shift and do things with, and I don't understand what he's saying, but it's something with how, because our bodies, he says, are lined up with the stars and how
Oh,
things are.
that has to do with astrology, then, right?
Yes, Erik says yes, but
Okay.
we don't take that into it. But Erik says yes, but it was also to like a form of direction. I feel like it was almost like an old timey, not a compass. Erik says yes, it's a compass, like an old
Oh,
way, but
hmm.
a more elaborate type compass. It was for guidance. It was definitely there for guidance.
That's so
Um,
cool.
mhm.
So, why are there no hieroglyphics or inscriptions on the Sphinx?
Erik says there's stuff on the inside. Are they able to get on in the inside of it? Because Erik keeps talking to me about inside. So
That's gonna come. Yeah,
okay,
it's gonna come.
because Erik says there's stuff on the inside, and Erik says some of it is because they just don't even know what they're looking for.
Okay. Who?
The people that are, that are
Analyzing it.
researching.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
I got it.
yeah.
Yeah.
But there are
Well,
some that know a little bit more than what's being told, because they have to give it to us in small doses, because
I got it. Yeah.
Eric says it's kind of like finding a mine that has a bunch of diamonds in it. If you go out and tell everybody how to do it and where it is and how easy it is to get the diamonds, then everybody
Yeah.
goes there. So they have to be.
That makes sense.
And Eric says the reason why he used that analogy, because there's greed that comes with that.
Oh God. All right, of course. So what's under the left paw? Apparently with, I don't know, geologic surveying, I don't know. They determined that it looks like an actual man-made cavity, like 30 to 40 feet under the surface. What's there of importance? Party place, party place. I don't know what.
Um,
ET's doing disco. No, I don't know what.
Eric says right now there you probably wouldn't find anything, but he says
Why? Because it was ransacked and taken away?
I feel like yeah, but also I feel like there was information put down in there,
Ah,
like um,
yeah.
I'm, Eric makes me look like a not a tombstone, but a like a
Sarcophagus?
like something that you put in a time capsule type stuff
Oh,
is
okay, yeah.
what he showed is put in there, and it was put there so that we wouldn't have to ransack our minds as to what was going on, because there was a lot of information, because Eric says these beings come in peace and they were here to help us
Yeah.
and to show us how to. Eric is saying, show us how to, as simple as how to go grocery shopping, how to care for ourselves, how to create, and we, and we just went nuts. But I do feel like there is something down in there, and I feel like it's within the earth, whatever they put in there within the earth, because Eric is showing me that what, even though a time capsule of what was in there, I just don't feel like whoever took it or whatever was going on in there and was smart enough to know to really get everything from it. And when Eric is showing me that, I feel like there's stuff on the outer walls within that hole,
Okay, so
whatever that.
who took it and when in time?
Eric says thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. And I feel like they dug, and the way Eric is showing me is like they dug underneath.
Uh,
They dug underneath.
why? What? Why would they think maybe something under that paw? How would they know that? Thousands of years ago, they didn't have geologic whatever ultrasound. I don't know what they do. So
Eric
why?
says they knew because of
Ancient accounts from, I don't
Eric
know.
says, they watched, um, because it's almost like it was an information type place, really.
Hmm.
But Eric is saying it's like they watched, and it was at a time where people started really absorbing their ego more,
What do you mean? What does that mean?
where their ego was being aware, like Susie has more than me, so let's go look
Oh,
at it, and stuff like that. So that's where that was going. But
ugh.
um, I just feel like there was like a ton of like knowledge in there. Like if
I
you
agree.
land on this planet, this is what you need to know.
Wow. Well, some people think that it holds the records of earlier civilizations, so we would
Eric,
know where we all came from. You know.
Erik says yes, but that scares and Erik says that would scare the shit out of people
Why?
because he says, we have been so brainwashed to believe that we came from um,
Adam and
Erik,
Eve.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's where we came from, and when you disrupt that, it just scares the shit out of everybody. Erik says so, but what people don't realize is that Adam and Eve came from these people,
Oh
and
yeah, I got a whole thing on that's in queue to post. It's fascinating. So, is it? Does it contain the records of earlier civilizations?
Erik says yes, and then some information, because it's
Wow.
almost like it's like it's a pamphlet. Erik says it's like, and I guess he's using this analogy because I'm looking into this kind of stuff, but he's showing me it's like a pamphlet to help you when you first go into college, to give you information so you're not so afraid, so you have a guidance and
Oh, like
a map,
the ancient
where to
version
go.
of the watchtower.
Right, it's kind of like yeah, and he says, so you're not just blindly walking through stuff. And
Interesting.
yeah, because it's kind of like, why reinvent the wheel if it's been
I know.
reinvented,
I know.
5,000 plus years ago.
I know. So, a lot of the hieroglyphics show these crocodile-like humanoids, and so I was wondering if it was built in part by the crocodile kings as portrayed in the records. In other words, the Anunnaki. I don't know if they were a reptilian species or whatever, but the Anunnaki, they think, were considered the crocodile kings. Is that true or not? And Anunnaki being ETs.
Erik says Anunnaki are ETs, and he says, when you said about you don't know about them being reptilian, Erik says no, that they weren't, is what
Oh,
he says.
okay.
Um, he's saying, I don't feel like they were classified as that,
Okay.
uh, is what Erik is saying.
Well, why were they looking? Do they look like crocodiles or what? Or did I don't know? Why were they depicted on hieroglyphics as crocodile-looking heads and human bodies?
This is what Erik is saying. He says there is a resemblance to that of the crocodile, the look and stuff like that. But even though, but they were considered reptilian, is what he's saying. There's something different in there. They're not really
Okay, they're not
under
true classic reptilians, but something
right.
associated with it.
Yeah, they're not you wouldn't, they just wouldn't be hanging out with the reptilians,
Oh,
like
okay.
he's showing me mating with them and stuff like that. And
Okay. Ugh, I don't want to see that graphic. Okay, now I cannot unsee that. All right, so some people think the Sphinx represents the integration of angelic nature with human nature. Is that true? Well, let me finish the rest of it though. Maybe it'll help. Is it a test for souls to wait until we become more evolved to figure out how to access and interpret the records under the paw? So is it that integration of angelic nature and human nature, and they made it such that we had to be very evolved to get to the point where we understood it all?
Erik says yes, we'd have to wait till we'd be really evolved to understand it all, because this stuff, he says, Erik is saying, okay, mom, I'm putting myself in, your shoes, and you bring all this information to me, and I'm supposed to go, oh, okay, this is how it is, and he says, so you have to wait till you get to a certain level. And he goes, can you imagine you subscribing to that, the guy 10 years ago, you wouldn't have been there ready for it. And now, with how you evolved, like now you're ready for even more information. And so because you're ready to dig into more truths, and this is the same for us. We have to be more evolved to be able to even go in that direction, because it goes against everything that we've been taught forever. um, and he says, is it part, what was the other part when you said about the angelic?
Yeah, about the integration of angelic nature with human nature. I don't know. I don't get that, but
Erik
whatever.
says, well, Erik says with that part, he says that's a good way to put it. He says that's a good way, to put it. He says there's definitely a feminine type of energy behind all of that,
Mm.
of a softness to, and that was there to let people know that it's okay, that it's safe, and it's, that it be, because we get scared of things real fast. Not, and when I say the feminine, I'm not talking about man or woman. I'm talking about the energy. And
The nurturing, calming,
right,
supportive energy that can be
right,
male or female, really.
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, I
Because
got it.
we
Got
have
it.
we have both of those within us.
Yeah.
So so he's saying yes, it's all intertwined. Yes. And Erik says he loves it. It's like we finally have gotten the ball of yarn untangled, and now we're starting to unwind it, and we're starting to understand more and more and more and more. And Erik says this is what we've been working towards, whether we believe it or not, is to understand more, because there's the enlightenment and the awareness and of all of this is just, we will find the hidden answers to a lot of our situations that we have, such as illness and like you said, war and poverty and addiction and
Oh God.
mental illness,
Yeah.
all this stuff, um, you will there's so much information in knowing this stuff. So he says, instead of us going, oh no, this stuff isn't true, he says we should be gravitating to that even more, because the more you learn, the more you know, the more you'll see how you're closer to the truth going in that direction than in the direction that we've been guided to go in.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think we're on the brink of something really big, of tearing down the old structures, the cabal, the disinformation, all the bad stuff that have led us astray. Where we have these beautiful ETs
Yes.
that are trying to help us. And, because last night I was like, I said, I want to know, I want to meet you ETs. And then I was like, oh my God, no, but don't stand in front of my bed. But please, I want to get an opportunity to show you love and gratitude, because I know that you are trying to help us freaking peons, ego driven peons, so unevolved, and you're millions of years advanced with us. And I just feel, after watching Cosmic Disclosure on Gaia.com, it's really good. You need to check it out. You get a
I
free
am on
trial,
there.
whatever. Um, it's just, I it's like, okay, just you can have a UFO craft in my backyard, just like I can see it through my window. It's like, okay, that's your, but I don't know about just y'all coming down and, but anyway.
But Erik says, Mama, he says, but you can have that aircraft come in your backyard and nobody else sees it.
Yeah, but I see it, but that's
And he
okay.
says,
But
but what they
I'm a
do
little
is,
scared
but
that
he says,
this.
don't worry about that. He goes, because, you know, he says, before my death, Mom, he says, Mama, you were afraid of, what if you saw a ghost or something, and he says,
Yeah,
and now, you welcome me, you want to see me and stuff,
yeah,
and you're not afraid, and of other, energies and stuff. And he says, this will be the same way, because you will feel how how loving and welcoming is. And he says, and they can come in your backyard where nobody else sees it, unless
I don't
some
care if
people
people see it.
if people are in alignment and want to see it, they will. But they will also create an energy field around you to where you will feel safe and know that it's okay.
Good. So, should we as a collective send loving energy to these beings that are trying to protect us from ourselves mostly, and help us evolve? I mean, what can we do as human beings to help these ETs? Because there are some, I mean, Emery Smith quit the space program when they brought in a warm ET body for him to dissect. It was like, no,
Well,
done.
Erik says, and because he knew intuitively that this was just that was wrong, just like it would
Yeah,
be
oh my
brought
God,
in
yeah.
a human being to do that.
Yes. I
And
mean, they
he,
have clean rooms where
ugh,
they kill ETs and just spray it down. Oh, it's terrible.
nasty.
It's really,
Gross. Yeah, but Erik says, this COVID-19, he says, don't think we're not rising our energy and doing something different, because it's really, people are starting to check in, and they have been checking in with their heart, and it's like, what's working and not's working. And he says,
yeah.
they're standing on the sidelines saying, okay, we're here and we're going to come in and help whenever the sign is given. He says, no, we're not going to have spaceship flying all around like you saw on sci-fi channels, way back when. But he says we are going to start seeing some things, and we're
Thank
going to hear
God.
more people talking about what's going on. And he says there's going to be resistance from people who are going to think it's the devil or whatever, but there's going to be a majority of us that are so sick of this, and we're going to go,
Yeah.
yes. Because what's going to be told to us is that we can heal your cancer, we can stop your addiction, we can
Yeah.
we can help, with um, the wildlife, or he says farm life, he didn't say wildlife, he said farm life. We can help with this stuff, instead of, well, if you do this, then we can give you this pill, or we can do that,
Yeah,
or
so guys, give love to the ETs. Really,
yes.
I'm so grateful for them. Oh,
And Erik is telling me, he goes, and they won't tell you you can finance a car for $300 a month for 7 years. And I think he said that because I just think that's so outrageous how
oh
they're saying to us now, we'll give you this, and it's such a great
yeah.
deal. For 7 years, you can pay on this never-ending bill.
Ugh. All right, so this woman, Sonia or Sonja, Sonja, I don't know, Grace, astral traveled to 12.5 thousand years ago and met this 20-foot tall entity, Sekhmet, Sekhmet, who took her down the tunnel to this giant room. She said it was a portal for her people to travel from to and from the Leo constellation. This is in the Sphinx, and her people were here long before the Egyptian gods. She also says it's a lion, not the dog Anubis, as so many people think. Is that true?
Erik said, yes, it is true, but it sounds so crazy to us. That's why a lot of people, and Erik says she kept that secret for a long time.
What kind of ET was she and her people? And were they benevolent? I mean, tell me a little bit about Sekhmet and her race, her people.
Erik is telling me her race is, Erik is saying I get like they're both male, female. They're the same, they're both. Um, Erik is also telling me he's calling them gentle giants. Um,
Oh,
they're very peaceful. And Erik says the reason why they're both male, female is because they're very balanced.
mm,
And and Erik is, they also help bring balance to, um, their energies bring balance here, and we do have some of those. We do, you know, we have people that are here now that are offsprings from that, you know.
Wow.
um, uh, and Erik says where they're from is not any place that even
Oh,
we can even see.
yeah. So when did they come here? How long ago? Was it like 12.5 thou?
Erik says yes. Erik is going with that number. He says yes. It was a long time. You know, it's like many, you know, hundreds of thousands. You know, it's a long time. You know, it's like yes, it was that long ago. But he just says it's hard for people to believe it's been that long.
Oh, well, that's their problem. All right, so, but basically, she said there's a portal for her people to go to and from the Leo constellation. But it sounds like what you're saying, Erik, is their origins were not the Leo constellation. Is that true?
Erik says yes, except he goes, there is a connection there. And the connection has to do with, he's telling me it has to do with the math on how they get to where they're going. And it's
What?
the math on how, he's showing me how, you know, like where the Leo constellation is, and how wherever they go, there's a math, there's something to do with mathematical stuff, is how
It's
it's
all
all,
math with ETs. It's
yes.
incredible.
And how it's all connected, and you need one without the other. And Erik says, and the reason why it's all mathematical is because of the energies and everything lining up, and just how everything is. And Erik says, you know, a lot of them, they do things with ease. They don't do things with, they don't go against the current when they're doing things. They do things that are in alignment. And they go with how things are lined up. You know, they don't just say, well, it's not lined up, well, let's go against this rough current.
Oh, yeah.
They wait for
Go with
things
the
to line.
flow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're
Should
smart.
I reach out to Sekhmet instead of just like random ETs come, I want to love on you and all that stuff? But don't be scary. Or who should I
should you
reach out to?
should you reach out to them? Erik says, which one does your intuitiveness do you feel drawn to? Because
I
that's
don't
the one.
know.
Because
The
Erik says,
Pleiadians, the Sekhmet, maybe if she's. I mean, I just want to
I
reach
feel
out to
like that
somebody that
because
I
I
can
feel like,
help.
well,
And
Erik says with that one, the second, I feel like you are on a road, um, I want to say a road quest, but that's not it. It's like you're on this journey. You're like, this is a part of a journey for you to be on, because there's going to be more information revealed to you
okay.
about this. And I just feel like, yes, I just feel like Erik is showing me you'll get more excitement, he says, from that.
Is Sekhmet a Pleiadian? I'm supposed to be a Pleiadian, I don't know, according to Erik. Or something different. And
Erik says, so it will help you just why you're so inquisitive about ETs. Everything will just start falling into place. It will start putting pieces to your puzzle. Why? And it will
okay.
just start making sense. Does that? I
So
don't.
patience, grasshopper. All right,
Yes.
so I'm almost finished. Is the knowledge preserved in the Sphinx? Is preserved by the clan of Osiris, who is Anki, the ET that really wanted to help mankind, as opposed to Enlil, who wanted them to be slaves. You know, Anki's desire to help humans attain a higher culture. So is this the knowledge in the you know, somewhere in the Sphinx, you know, is that what's preserved um, by the clan of Osiris, Enki?
Erik says yes, and it is preserved in there because Erik earlier was talking about what's inside, and they made it to where it would stay preserved because of the goodness of it, and because there's a purpose in it. You know, it's almost like anybody can go in there and do whatever, so to speak, but the goodness of it is so well protected that it's almost like it's invisible to anybody else.
Except those who are ready to receive, maybe.
Yes.
Okay. What else is under the Sphinx? Anything we need to know about? If we're ready to know about it?
Erik is saying there's um, Erik says there's like he's showing me minerals under it, but he's also showing me there's a magnetic field under it.
Yeah, you started to discuss that. Okay, what's the
Yes,
importance of that?
because in spite of what we do as humans, it's almost like this magnetic field that's under it. Erik is saying there we don't have the capabilities of total destroying it, and I
Oh
also feel like it
God.
protects
Yeah.
the I want to say fixture, but that's not what it is. It's a, you know, it's the symbol, you know, it's like a goddess. It's a, you know,
The information?
it's a Erik says that's a good one, Mom. It's like an information center. It's the hub of some ET's information system,
Oh,
is what
wow.
Erik is saying. Yes. And so this magnetic field around it is, it just doesn't allow us to destroy it, you know.
Okay. That's awesome. All right. Are
That
there other
is.
structures similar in you know in other geographic locations that have the same thing going on as the Sphinx does?
Erik says yes. And but it hasn't been yet discovered.
Oh,
and
okay.
and and there's a reason for it, and he's showing me the Antarctic, which I think is so fascinating because I always have wanted to go to the Antarctic and just sit
Wow.
there and listen
You know,
to
we
it.
should have a whole session on the Antarctic, maybe. You
Yeah,
know?
but he's saying there are other structures, like he's showing me there, but there are other structures in other parts of this planet, and I feel like some of them is some of where they are that we have yet to discover them because they knew ahead of time what we would do with it.
Yeah. All right. Real
As
quickly, I got
far as,
just a couple of more
you
questions.
know, wanting
Um,
to,
okay. Is it the knowledge within the Sphinx, under the left paw, whatever? And we talked about this a little bit. Is it in the universal language of mathematics? So like, if we communicate with ETs, I think that dialogue may be in math. And astrology
you're right.
is a communication with them for giving location, like a GPS. So math and astrology. Tell me about that.
Erik says yes. Math is a universal language. He says with anybody, you know, it doesn't matter how you write it. He says 2 + 2 is 2. I mean 4.
God, I should have taken calculus. Oh, go ahead.
And he says, you know, 2 + 2 is 4, no matter how you do it or in
Yeah,
whatever language. And
yeah,
he's
yeah,
saying,
yeah.
um, and he's showing me, yes, it's a GPS, and because things are constantly shifting,
But
and he's
math
showing
never changes.
no, and
Yeah,
so you can always get things lined up when you're doing the math. And he's showing me like he's showing me back before we had today's technology, you know, the ships on how they would guide themselves,
yeah, yeah,
and
Yeah.
I forget what, it's not a compass, but I forget what it is.
Oh yeah, I know the shit.
And I have
Sexton. Yeah. Okay.
I have my brother's old one from a long time ago, and they
Wow.
don't use that anymore. But he even used that on when he was a captain, you know. And
Wow.
but Erik has shown me how this is what they would use. You know, we think that they were going blindly, but they knew how to line things up and the stars, and also to like the month they left. Everything, you know, was calculated. The month.
Yeah. So astrology, mathematics, perfect
Yes,
blend. Now I got two more questions. Are there other portals in our planet, on our planet, excuse me, that open up to another dimension in our current reality?
Erik says yes, most definitely. And people, more people than what we realize
Wow.
have experienced that. And he says, and you can even find these people on YouTube. He says, absolutely.
What do we look up? Like,
He says you can.
I didn't need my frequent flyer miles because I went through a portal to
He's,
Bermuda.
he says you can look up UFO portals, and you will things will come up. People have, yes, definitely.
So where are they man-made? Most, I mean, ET made, or are some of them natural, or both?
Erik says, well, they're ET made, but they're of course with it being ET, Mom. He
Yeah.
says it's natural made because they made it.
Oh yeah. Okay, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
and he says, and he's showing me they are all over the world. There's
Where
not
is the closest one to you and I? Because we are almost neighbors.
a. He's telling me that there there is, he says there are places, and he's showing me like he's showing me in Texas there's he says some, and he's showing me more like in West Texas, or
Like Marfa?
like a
Maybe?
panhandle or something.
Oh. What about Marfa, like near Big Bend? Because they have some UFO or some weird, crazy light.
Erik
Marfa
says
lights.
yes. Erik is telling me, I don't know where that is, but he says yes, they're there. And he says, and then, you know, he says they also have some in New Mexico. There's some there. He says there's definitely a bunch in the West Coast and around in there, but he says they're all over, though, really, all over the US, and they're all over the world. He
Well,
says,
what is the benefit of you and I, Denise, going to that portal and, you know, going to another dimension in our current reality?
he says the benefit for like you or I to go would be if you know we're ready and we go there. He says it would be expansion in our
Okay.
awareness to where we can bring this on to other people and to help other people, because there's so much um, help from them
Yeah.
that would
Yeah.
help us tremendously, you know.
Girls trip, girl. We're gonna go to a dimension and one of these portals, and we're gonna have a girls trip.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
That'd be cool. All right, really quickly, the pyramids, origins, time built, purpose. Just really quickly, because I probably have to have a whole session on that. But yeah,
So what was the purpose?
yeah, okay. Well, who built them? Was it ETs?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When were they built? About the same time as the Sphinx, or
I feel like they were built after, the way
okay?
Erik is showing me, because Erik is showing me the Sphinx and then the pyramids. But I don't feel like it was long after.
Okay, why? Why are they there? Well, you know, we talked about it pointing to the south to the Sirius constellation, I think. So maybe it's because you know it opens up this portal where they can go to and from Sirius, but or whatever. I can't remember. Okay, go ahead.
Erik says it was kind of like a what we would call like a space station. You know, it was a place for them to come and um, also to, I feel like they were here to give us guidance. Erik is showing me on how to live, because he says this is very, even though we think it's an old planet, it's very young as far as people living on it.
Yeah.
Because
We got a long way to go.
yeah, Erik says, we act stupid on this planet. Not all of
I
us,
know
but
I
you
do.
know.
I'm stupid.
He
But
says,
anyway,
"Mom,
so
no, you
I'm
don't."
so grateful to the ETs. And of course, I'm grateful for you, Denise. You channeled some really hard stuff here. And Erik, you gave us so much awesome information. I just am so grateful for both of you. You guys check out Denise at deniseramon.com, which I will put here. And yeah, so Erik, I'm going to talk to Sekhmet, right? Or a Pleiadian. Or it's like,
He
come
said
on,
yes.
we'll snuggle together
He
at
said
night. No.
yes. Erik says yes. He says, bring them in the bed. He
Well,
says,
what can I do to help them? Like they need help?
Erik says it's not so much what you could.
Gratitude.
Well, Erik says it's not. He says having respect for them and showing appreciation, but it's not so much what you can do for them. He says it's what you're allowing them to do for you,
Oh, okay.
because you're a teacher, you're an educator, you're a healer, and they have a lot of information that you could give out
Yeah,
that
yeah,
could help with the masses.
maybe. But I just feel so much fonder of them now that I've watched Gaia. All right, well, thank you guys. And you guys, notification bell, subscribe if you haven't already. If you click subscribe again, you already subscribed, you're going to unsubscribe. And please like. And also, of course, check out Denise Ramon, deniseramon.com. Love
Thank you.
y'all. Bye. I
Love
love
you,
you,
Erik.
Erik.
Erik says, "I love you, Mama,"
I love you,
and
baby, so
giving you kisses. Oh,
much. Oh,
I know, sweet.
bye.
Bye.